Anywhere else? Go for it. Okay.
I did. Thank you. I saw. I told you it's so.
I appreciate it.
Good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure to see all of you here. And it's great. I gotta tell you, it's great to be out here. And for those who know, I did a lot of great things from working with Staten Island over the years in my various parts of my life. So it's nice just to see a lot of people that I've had relationships with before, and it's a pleasure to be here. And at the Urban League, we were around 2 blocks away from here. Exactly. And so it's a pleasure to be here. And if I can ask just to take the roll, and then we'll pick it up. And I apologize for starting a couple of minutes late, because I know we have other people coming in and signing up as well. And my name is Dennis Walcott, and I have the honor of being the chair. I am here.
I'm here virtually.
Mark will be doing it. He's on the bill. Sir, and several of our commission members will be joining virtually over a period of time. Then Mr. Rozelle's on the ferry and on his way over. And our executive director, Dr. John Plateau, is also virtual today. And before we start with our testimony, I always like to have a couple people, and I learned something yesterday to kick it off. But first, I'd like to have Michael Small, who is our spokesperson from Staten Island. So, Michael?
Thank you, Chair Walcott. My name is Mike Schmall. I am the lone islander among the 15. So welcome to the Rock for all of you folks who aren't from Staten Island. And thank you to everyone who's in this room and watching virtually today. It's super important that Staten Island's voice is heard. Not often are we considered in a lot of citywide efforts, and sometimes we're actually forgotten. But I think today is a perfect example of how, when something's really important to us, we all come out and we speak up and we share our views and opinions, and we're here to listen to you. I know as the Long Islander, I carry the burden of over 500,000 people who want to be adequately represented in the New York City Council. And so, again, thank you for coming out. Please be honest with us, share your opinion, continue to engage with us throughout the summer and the fall, and hopefully we're going to get this done. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And I would like to ask the judge to say a couple of words before we kick it off with the testimony. So that way. Okay.
This is the last of the hearings that we're going to have before the commission gets to the podcast of drafting some preliminary for the city council. But I just wanted to thank you all for coming, because it's important that you come and express your voice. And the reason it's important is that voting is so critical to our American government. And as the Supreme Court recognized quite many years ago, that the concept of one person can vote so much a part of our daily lives and our legal lives, but it's protect our right to vote is protected under the concept of it, protected in the Constitution, equal protection of the laws. So part of that is making sure that your vote is equal to everybody else's. And that's why we go through this exercise of redistricting. And in New York City, that's totally necessary. But the Constitution also requires that a census be taken every 10 years. And the current census that was taken for 2020 shows a tremendous growth in New York City. So we have to redistrict many of the districts in this city. And I'm going to ask our counsel here to just very briefly explain the legal constraints that we operate in. But before I do that, I want to again thank you for coming to participate in these proceedings.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Penn, and I'm General Counsel to the Commission. And just for everyone, as the judge mentioned, we passed out some information for you regarding kind of the criteria and the laws that apply to this commission in drawing the new city council district map. So I just wanted to just give you a very brief summary, but again, this information is also available on our website, and you can always request it as well. And we have a printed out version of it. So as the judge mentioned, redistricting requirements are triggered by the decennial census taken every 10 years. This is based on the one person, one vote doctrine of the U.S. Constitution. So we want to make sure that every 10 years, the district lines are being drawn to take into account the changing population sizes and the demographics of the population. So that's one, the U.S. Constitution that kind of underpins all of that. The second is the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965. We want to make sure that the districting plans maintain the protection of certain racial and language minorities that are protected under the Federal Voting Rights Act, and that if these maps are being drawn, we're not diluting any of those votes. And, there's analysis that's undertaken to do this, that the commission is undertaking as part of this process, as well as, and the city charter reflects this criteria in that it specifically requires fair and effective representation of those groups. But first and foremost, we also have the, as part of the one person, one vote requirement, we also have this population deviation rule under the state newly passed state law, which basically limits the differences in the population of each district. So we want to make sure they're as equal as possible, but there is a state law that says the difference between the most populous and the least populous district in the map shall not exceed 5% of the average population of all districts. So that 5% deviation can be done in several permutations, but there is that fundamental 5% limitation. So I just want to make that point. And as well, we have the city charter, of course, that lays out the criteria and the order in which that criteria must be applied. And in addition to the population deviations and the Voting Rights Act considerate criteria that I just mentioned, we also have to make sure that we keep neighborhoods and communities of interest intact. And we've gotten a lot of testimony so far from the from the public on this, so that's really helpful for the commission. We want to make sure that the district shapes are compact shapes, not too narrow and wide. We want to maintain their shapes. We want to limit crossover districts, meaning a district covering more than one borough, like if there is, a Staten Island, Brooklyn, for example, could be a scenario. I mean, just hypothetically, we want to limit that, the number of crossover districts. And we also want to make sure that the districts are contiguous, meaning they are, they're not, the district is in one piece. There could be a river running through it, for example, but we want to make sure they keep to the natural boundaries. So that's the criteria and kind of the legal basis that the commission must follow under local law, state law, federal law. So there are a lot of considerations to take place.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand this over to the chair.
Thank you, Judge. And also one final piece, and then we've been joined by Mark Roselle as well. So welcome, Mark. And what do you want to say something first? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Roselle. Sorry I'm late. As most Staten Islanders know, the southbound Lexington Avenue line is a horror. And kind of slowed me down. I missed that 3 o'clock boat, so I hustled up here on the 3:30 and ran up the hill. So I'm sure everyone has had that experience at one point or another. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out to the fellow commissioners that there was an op-ed in the advance today. I have copies, and I think it's very relevant to the subject matter that I think many of the people here who are in attendance and people who are participating in Zoom are going to be addressing today. So I just want to make sure that everyone got to see it. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. And what we'll do, just so you understand the format we'll undertake today, is that we'll have in-person testimony, and then we also have people testifying virtually as well. So we'll do in-person, virtual, in-person, virtual. And obviously the elected officials are here or well, having a former council member here as well. We'll have them queue up as well. And so with that being said, I would like to start with our former council member and a former colleague as well. So council member, and the microphone is yours. You take it from there, Rose. And also, can you speak directly in, because we'll be transcribing as well from the microphones, and for any individual who's on the phone or virtually, if you can mute until it's your time to speak as well.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Walcott and the District and Commission members. Welcome to Staten Island. I am Debbie Rose, the most recent former council member for the 49th City Council District and the first ever Black elected official on Staten Island. And I had the privilege of representing the North Shore of Staten Island for 12 years. I love the North Shore. It is good to see you, Chair Walcott, as you are no stranger to Staten Island and the uniqueness herein. And I want to thank Commissioner Snow for being our voice on the commission. The census tells a story that documents the historic applications of redlining, which created barriers to housing in other parts of Staten Island that have resulted in the North Shore of Staten Island being the most densely populated with the highest concentration of Blacks and Hispanics. While Staten Island has a relatively small Black population, it is mostly concentrated in the northernmost neighborhoods of the borough. From Mariners Harbor, Arlington, and Granite, there are 9,000 people. To Rosebank, Shore Acres, and Park Hill, there are 5,600. With the Asian and Black populations being the fastest growing populations on Staten Island. There are also more than twice as many Hispanics living on the North Shore, 49,928, than the Mid-Island, according to the 2020 census. The 49th district is home to 32.8% Hispanics, 23.5% Blacks, 11.3% Asians, for a total of 67.6% of the population in the 49th district, making it the most racially and ethnically diverse district. The Redistricting Commission is charged by the New York City Charter to ensure the fair and effective representation of racial and language minority groups protected by the Voter Rights Act and to keep neighborhoods and communities intact. I can't think of any other district in Staten Island that better fits that criteria that was set by the city charter. The dissolution of the 49th district as it stands now today would only serve to disenfranchise communities that have struggled to overcome the economic, health, educational, housing, transportation, and political disparities which exist. The facts are that families on the North Shore are rent burdened with 49% paying more than 35% or more of their household income for rent. They live in food and transportation deserts, and their children attend subpar, consistently underperforming schools. For example, PS 78, Stapleton, Clifton, 47% Hispanic, 40% African American, and 6% Asian, and 16% English language learners. Homeless and economic disadvantage makes up 98% of the school. The economic needs of these schools are profound and is exacerbated by the added need for additional school determinants such as access to healthcare, green spaces, healthy food, social, civic, and neighborhood networks, and second language support. Our communities on the North Shore need to be able to raise their voices in concert to elect representatives that know and understand the district and the constituents' needs. That can't be accomplished if the North Shore District is expanded into Brooklyn or Manhattan. And besides, I am sure that there will be other districts in other boroughs that are contiguous that can be extended into their boroughs that are not separated by a body of water, not a river, an ocean. And lastly, I understand that while the commission's goal is to redraw maps with an average population of 172,631 members, under the 5% rule, districts can have as small of a population as 166,000 to 178,000. The current population in District 49 is 171,145. Just 1,486 people, or 0.9% shy of your projected goal. Frankly, I don't understand why this isn't being considered. We are asking you to apply the 5% rule and keep the North Shore intact as it exists today. We appreciate your efforts and ask that you develop fair and equitable districts which recognize our diversity, address the historic inequities, and will continue to empower all of our residents. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you for your testimony as well. Next we'll have Rachel. Council member?
Hello, can you hear me?
Looks like you might be.
Hello?
And council member?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Chair
All right.
Walcott.
Hold
Can
on
you
one
hear me?
second, council member. Council member?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Chair Walcott and the distinguished members of the Redistricting Commission for holding this public hearing and for the opportunity to present testimonies. And you giving opportunity to all of us to have a voice to speak on behalf, not only me as a representative of my district, but everyone that wish to talk about their district. Thank you. I am New York City Council member Mercedes Narcisse, and I have the honor and the privilege of representing the 46th Council District in Brooklyn. Allow me to publicly thank you. Thank for the great service to our city and for our crucial work in guiding the redistricting process to completion as required by legal requirements set by the US Constitution, federal law, state law, and the Charter of New York City, of New York, to make the 46th district more compact That's what I'm here. I will not go on in all the detail of how we like the district. I had the opportunity to present a map because the idea, as the federal law, the goal is not diluting any group's votes. And that's what I'm here to talk on behalf of the 46th district. To make up for the population loss, I will consider to join some part that can make our district more compact. The inclusion of different areas that can make the district a whole, that we share culture, we share the cultural, different cultural issue, and as well as the schooling our children goes, different things that make the district a whole can make it more progressive for the time that we're living. This revision, the map that I had sent will exhibit the map that I have submitted that will meet the population requirement as well. So I have all sent down to online that you can see it. Is we share the similarities, the culture, and I'm looking forward to represent a district that's compact and that we can advance and we can address the inequities that we've been talking about. So I thank you for your time. I will not take long, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. And we released the map as well as some extra testimony. I don't want to take too long because I know so many folks would like to testify as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for your submission as well. We've also been joined by our commission member, Lisa Song. And next we have the five-borough map. We literally have been a five-borough map. Been through every year. So, me? Oh.
Excluding Manhattan. I've been joining Manhattan due to miscommunication. I just wanted to inform the executive director and the chair, the Pastor Master P. No public hearings here at Staten Island Borough Hall. You need to specify where exactly you're holding them. Because I told the powers that be, I showed the powers that be this because I forgot I had this. But either way, I'm still telling the same story. They refused to tell me where exactly this public hearing is going to be held. And it got to the point where I wanted to either give them my right hand, my right knee, or a wedge. So in the future, no public hearing, specify where it's going to be held, and see if you can get a bigger room. Also, don't start public hearings before 6 p.m. and telling people still working. I see the MTA, which has the money thrown away, do that. Don't imitate the MTA. It's not very swift. The city council should have 50 members, not 51. This is what you can do. Take District 51 and collaborate with District 49. We name District 51 District 50. Because we only have two shores here in Staten Island, which became Gilligan's Island following Hurricane Sandy, north and south. And as you know, I don't live here in Staten Island. I live in Bronx Island, the borough of Jose Stadium, which, like this borough, is the other forgotten borough. They're both small, but this one's smaller. So, therefore, we don't need 3 city council districts. We don't need 3 state assembly districts. We don't need 3 state senators. We don't need 3 federal congressional districts. We only need 2. As small as this borough is, cut the middleman out. And also, I stated, please, in the future, don't start public hearings before 6 p.m. Okay, that's not very swift. It really is. Okay, so, because I just know that when I check the website, I noticed that the public hearing next month are scheduled to start at 4 p.m. So if the schedules are at 4 p.m., then that shows you weren't listening, and there's no saying goes. Your hard head will give you a soft behind. Food for thought.
Thank you for your testimony. And next we'll have virtual. Councilmember Delaware.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Good afternoon to you.
Yes, I am Carmen De La Rosa, and I am the current council member for District 10 in Upper Manhattan. I was elected to serve on the council in 2020, and prior to that, I served as a state assemblywoman for District 72 for almost 5 years. The 72nd district is almost wholly contained within the District 10. I grew up on the northern end of the district in Inwood, and I am proudly raising my daughter here as well. Both as a resident as an elected representative, I value the richness of this district and the opportunities that it has afforded so many who have come and gone throughout the decades, and those of us who have been fortunate to stay. Nevertheless, I am not shocked by the reality of the population decline in District 10, nor of the reports of census undercounts and double counting of certain demographics. Our communities have been through a lot, and even so, their exhaustive efforts to make themselves counted in the last census is commendable. Inevitably, District 10 must grow by at least 10,000 people. And in determining in which direction to go, I asked the commission to take into account the communities of interest to the north and east in the Bronx, as well as a bit south in Manhattan. Our communities on all sides, both further down south in Manhattan and to the east, to the north and east in the Bronx, are politically and socially connected. I welcome all new residents in this as this process will take shape. I asked the commission to take into account as well the impacts that a recently passed rezoning will have on District 10 in the next decade. New zoning will bring with it more housing units and in turn, new residents. A district on the lower deviation would address this reality and ensure that all residents in the next decade have an equal ability to elect a candidate of his choice for years to come. I appreciate the opportunity. I will be submitting this testimony as well and listening to the voices of those people who live in Upper Manhattan and share this great district with me. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to the second set of hearings. Thank you.
Our next in person is Kathleen Rivera. Kathleen Rivera.
Good afternoon. I'm not a public speaker, so I am going to be reading straight from my notes. It's a script. Good afternoon, commission members and my fellow concerned citizens. I'm so happy to see so many turned out. My name is Kathleen Rivera. I'm a resident of West Brighton in City Council District 49 on the North Shore of Staten Island. The possibility that our district could be merged with an area in Brooklyn or Manhattan is unacceptable. The North Shore has nothing in common with those areas, neither ethnically, socioeconomically, or racially. For example, the recent redistricting of our assembly district to include Lower Manhattan and Battery Park City combined our existing district, one where the highest concentration of Staten Island residents are living at or below the poverty line reside, with an area listed on citydata.com as having a median annual income of $158,000. Battery Park City has a preponderance of luxury housing, while the North Shore of Staten Island has pretty much the highest concentration of NYC developments in any of New York City's council districts. This will have an elected official representing the wants and needs of almost diametrically opposed populations. Crossing over into another borough to right-size the district to meet city charter population for district requirements reduces the process to a numbers game. However, we are dealing with real people's lives here. Almost 2/3 of my community's residents are considered to be part of a minority group, either Hispanic, Black, or Asian, with very specific concerns among the immigrant population. The Voting Rights Act states that districts should not be drawn in such a way that the voting power of racial minority groups would be diluted. The current constituents of District 49 would be negatively affected by merging
with any community, especially one in another borough that doesn't have the same concerns, problems, issues, and needs that we need our city council person to address. I urge the commission to please make sure that the district reflects the reality of our community rather than numbers and lines on a map. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, virtual. Yamina Ramirez. Yamina Ramirez. If not,
Sorry, hello?
oh, hello.
No, I'm sorry, that was accidental. I don't have a
No
question,
problem.
sorry.
I apologize.
I'm sorry?
Yes, you can, yes, we can, that's fine.
Oh, no, I said I don't have a question. That was accidental. I was taking notes and I pressed something. I'm sorry.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you, continue listening. We'll have another virtual, and then we'll go back to public. Adrian Belton.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so, good afternoon, Chair Walcott and members of the Independent Redistricting Commission. Thank
Can
you
you
for
speak up?
having me. It is with great disappointment that I, along with a great deal of other Harlem residents, are faced with the task of testifying and writing to you regarding the redistricting lines that have been asked for consideration for the 9th New York City Council District. All right. It is also unfortunate that there has not been a hearing held in Harlem with such an impactful matter at stake. That said, it is my understanding that there are now more hearings being scheduled. And I'm hoping that one will be held in Harlem. We have been made aware that it is a desire to include like NYCHA Polo Grounds residents from the Harlem district into the Washington Heights district. Should this happen, the 9th district would have to move further south, down like downtown, ensuring that the Harlem Council seat could be represented by someone who doesn't even live in Harlem. Currently, the southern lines of the council district end at approximately 106th Street, crossing over to Park Avenue. If the southern lines are redrawn further south, perhaps maybe to 71st Street, that disproportionate proposal threatens the cultural integrity and will be severely marginalized. That would make the 9th City Council District the only district on the entire Manhattan delegation without ethnic representation. That's shared. We are proposed severely to removing the Polo Grounds from the 9th Council District, which would deplete the integrity and the historic significance of a Black historic district. If any of the Washington Heights Council District needs increase in population based on the census, perhaps it should be considered from the 7th Council District. Thank you in advance for your anticipated cooperation in this regard, and I appreciate your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Stephanie, is it Stephanie? To vote, my apologies.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Commissioners, Chair Walcott, for being here in Staten Island this afternoon. My name is Stephanie Chabot, and I live in Port Richmond, and I've lived in Staten Island for approximately 25 years. Prior to that, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I lived there. So I'm a transplant. In that time, I have truly come to love and appreciate the character that is the North Shore of Staten Island. The kind of diversity that makes for an interesting community. We have arts, we have culture, we have restaurants, we have some transportation, not enough. And we have populations that bring cultural differences, that bring interest and opportunities to learn and expand one's world. This is the North Shore of Staten Island. The 49th district has been said in the past to be the most diverse district within the city council. We have a growing Southeast Asian population that's very active here. And certainly we have a Latino population that I live closest to in Port Richmond, and we have a wonderful kind of relationship. These are the things that make a fabric for a community, and we need to maintain that fabric and not put an ocean between this part of it and the other. We have other districts in the North Shore which currently do include Brooklyn and have included Brooklyn for some time, and has made it somewhat difficult for that fabric to be developed and maintained in the various state districts. So I would propose to you, and in agreement with what Councilmember Rose and others have said, we need to maintain the district that we have. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, Rachel. Mark Anderson.
Yes, hi. My name is Mark Anderson. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. I am the president of the Westerly Improvement Society, and I would like to talk about two issues. One of them is that we hit the possibility of some of our districts moving into other boroughs. Staten Island is a unique borough in many ways. The area, especially in density, the area comprises 25% of the area of New York City, yet it only has 6% of the population of the city. The average population on Staten Island is 8,000 people per square mile, whereas in Brooklyn, it's 37,000 people per square mile. And in Manhattan, it's 70,000 people per square mile. So that's 9 times more dense in Manhattan and 5 to 6 times more dense in Brooklyn than in Staten Island alone. In Staten Island has other issues as well that are different from the other boroughs. Unlike those boroughs, a large percentage of Staten Islanders need to commute using cars to get to work, school, and to shop. Many rely on buses, both locally as well as expresses to Manhattan, which is unique to the other, as opposed to the other boroughs. Staten Island, and many of the people on Staten Island also need to use a car to get to work in New Jersey as well. Primarily, Staten Island is zoned for 1 and 2 family houses, which brings other unique situations, such as a large percentage of home ownership, overtaxation, and other issues related to property taxes and water bills and whatnot. So mixing Staten Island districts with the other boroughs is problematic not only for us, but for them as well. So related to our district itself, our district has many different dividing lines, both city and state, and our lines really marginalize us quite significantly. If I could just bring up the map of the existing zoning, we're split. We have a small portion of our area that is actually, if you can see here, here's the existing map of the area. And this, let me see if I can point with this. Yes, I can. Okay. So this is the area that we represent. And you'll see the blue area is the 50th district and the white area is the 49th district. So we're sort of an appendage in this area to the 49th. And we find it very difficult, even though we're very similar as far as the building stock and the social issues and crime and other major, defining characteristics of the neighborhood, we find it very difficult to correspond between the two council districts and represent that area. When we look to the north of our community, the other civics have major issues with crime, with social services, housing issues that we just simply do not have in our area. We would really like to ask, and for instance, during COVID, one of our major issues with our area was, I don't know if you can see this, but this is a cookbook we were trying to put together, whereas other areas are dealing with shootings and stabbings and other social issues. So we're quite different from the 49th at large. And what we would really ask is that we incorporate this area in the 49th in the 50th district, because we are more like our issues are more like the Mid-Island issues, which the 50th district represents. So
Thank you.
that
Testimony. We appreciate it.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next person, we have Jazzy Robinson. Yep.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. Thank you to the commission. But I also want to say thank you to everyone in this room. I was given an ask, and the ask was to make sure that Staten Island shows up. I think I did a pretty good job. We showed up. While Staten Island is oftentimes the forgotten borough, we're not the forgotten borough. We are the underestimated borough because we show up time and time again. I am a proud member of the NCNW, which is the National Council of Negro Women. I'm also a member of the SAL, the Alliance for South Asian Labor, and I'm here today to show my support for the 49th District. We should not be broken up. It is not fair. It is not right. And despite what was previously the view that was given before about high crime, there's crime everywhere in Staten Island, but I take it personally because the fact is that I'm very proud of the diverse, the uniqueness of the 49th District. We have a proud, robust African community, Latino community, and we work very hard. We are engaged. We are the melting pot of Staten Island. So for it to be said that we are crime ridden, or we have everywhere has ills and everywhere has problems, but the fact to single out and not to merge with the 49th District because we have ills, there's ills everywhere. So I just want to really emphasize the point that the 49th District should not be merged with Brooklyn or with Manhattan. We have enough numbers to reiterate what Councilwoman former, or I like to say forever, our Councilwoman Debbie Rose had reiterated that we have the numbers and we should not be broken up. We have seen a miscarriage of that during the other redistricting process. The 61st District, which was primarily in the North Shore, is now merged with Lower Manhattan. We have no commonalities. There's no ties except for environmental issues, which is the same. But as far as everything else is different. So please, I implore that the commission do not break up the 49th District. We are thriving. We are a beautiful, eclectic community. And I just hope that, our testimonies are taken seriously and we're not broken up. And thank you for the time. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is Lakeville. Councilmember Farrah Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon. First, I want to thank you for hosting this public hearing. And just wanted to just quickly come on and just share, and I'll submit public testimony as well regarding Council District 45. I know you guys are in a whole nother borough today, but regarding Council District 45, we're looking forward to the redistricting process because our district is disproportionately impacted in many ways. We don't have a hospital in our district. We have the least amount of parks in our district. So what we're looking forward to during this process is making sure that we could expand the district out a little bit more south to ensure that we could gain a hospital in our district, some extra parks, as well as schools, because we have a limited amount in District 45. Our district hasn't expanded much, according to the information that we received. So I look forward to submitting public testimony on this so that we can give you some recommendations on what our community is thinking about. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Councilmember. We look forward to getting the testimony. Have a good afternoon. Next in person, we have Aurelia Curtis.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. You could have been anywhere else, but you're here. We hope we don't make you sorry that you're here. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of the people of City Council District 49, of which I am a resident, and specifically for about clients of Project Hospitality, the staff of Project Hospitality, the children and families of a small nonprofit that I am the executive director of. As you make decisions,
Can you speak straight into the mic?
decisions
Thank you.
that will affect us, all of us, for the next 10 years, and possibly for a lifetime for the children and families in this district. My name is Aurelia Curtis, and I live in this district. I'm the secretary of Project Hospitality. It's a nonprofit that serves the hungry and homeless here in Staten Island and has done so for well over 30 years. I'm also the president of a nonprofit which provides youth development and early childhood education opportunities to children in Staten Island and Brooklyn. Before retiring in 2015, I worked for the City of New York Department of Education as a teacher of mathematics and computer science, as an assistant principal, and as a principal. And in all of those capacities, I have witnessed firsthand the added value of having a city council member who truly sees and understands the needs of her community. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the human side of all of this space. I want you to take aside the numbers for a minute. Stop thinking about the rivers and the seas and think about the human part of all of this. Today we have Councilwoman Hanks. She's a product of this community. She knows our needs. She understands why funding cannot be diluted, where funding is most needed. She takes the time to listen, and she balances all that she hears to ensure that the children in Stapleton and the families in Mariners Harbor are not left behind. Before her, Councilwoman Rose kept her doors open to community-based organizations, academic institutions, and healthcare facilities. City Council funding for District 49 is the single reason why Curtis High School has an air-conditioned auditorium and school-based health center today. City Council funding for District 49 is partially responsible for why Project Hospitality is building new housing today in Port Richmond, much needed housing. And I'm certain that my colleagues in education will join me in listing all the myriad of ways that schools have benefited from being part of the discretionary funding for City Council District 49. Small groups are not lost in allocation of funds. WESAP, a relatively small nonprofit in the Mariners Harbor section, Staten Island, continues to benefit from discretionary funding. Our city council women see us, know us, and we know them. So today, I appeal to the Redistricting Commission to consider the demographics and socioeconomics of the adjoining communities as you think about redrawing city council lines. Combining Staten Island's North Shore communities of Mariners Harbor and Park Hill with adjoining areas simply because they're close by. And of course, there's the law that says you must do something. May very well be the single most decisive move that New York City government will take to dilute resources that are desperately needed here. I may also signal that New York City government is not, if New York City government is truly interested about evening the playing field, that changing the boundaries of this district in the manner proposed may choose to do just the opposite. So I want to believe that this commission and this city government understands the difference that it can make in the lives of children and families in City Council District 49. So I appeal to you to hear us, allow us to be seen, allow us to be heard, allow us to be understood when you draw the new city district lines. Thank you.
Thank you, and if I could just take a moment, my one time of editorializing an outstanding principle. I would be remiss if I didn't say it. We've been joined by our commission member, Eugene. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure. Next is virtual. Roy Moskowitz. Roy Moskowitz.
Yes, thank you very much. I live in Castleton Corners, which is in the 50th Council District. The 50th is allegedly the Mid-Island District. I say allegedly because it does not contain where I lived from 94 to 06, New Springville, Heartland Village, and the Mall area, which are the neighborhoods most islanders associate with Mid-Island. These neighborhoods are in the Mid-Island 63rd Assembly District, but inexplicably are part of the South Shore Council. Also inexplicably, the East Shore is part of the Mid-Island District, while the Mall is not. Let's compare Staten Island geography to a US map. Castleton Corners, where I reside, would be Ohio, and the Mall, Missouri. The East Shore would be Maryland. Maryland is centrally located in the eastern seaboard. Being centrally located on the East Coast does not make it one of the central states or part of the Midwest. It is a mid-Atlantic state, stressing the word Atlantic. The current 50th Council District sans the East Shore and the South Shore's Mid-Island neighborhoods share many things in common that it doesn't have with its eastern neighborhoods. True Mid-Island neighborhoods like the Midwest are landlocked. The true Mid-Island neighborhoods, which include the South Shore District's neighborhoods that belong in the 50th, are not near the water. More impactfully, true Mid-Island precincts are unfortunately not served by SART trains, while eastern areas like New Dorp and South Shore locations like Tottenville have train stations. Mid-Island neighborhoods are anywhere from 1.5 miles to 5 miles from the closest local trains. Unless you live in St. George, which also is on the train line, the SART is the quickest way to get to the ferry. SART trains take much less time to get to the boat than local buses are driving. Despite being further away from Manhattan, some South Shore denizens near trains have shorter commutes to the city than Mid-Islanders who must endure 45-minute trips to the boat plus the ferry ride or take long and expensive express bus trips into the city. When it comes to the commute, Heartland Village has more in common with Bull's Head than it does with Eltingville, and Willowbrook has more in common with Graniteville than it does with Newdorp. 50th District components, Willowbrook and Manor Heights, and the 51st New Springville and Heartland Village have Richmond County's largest Jewish populations. Despite Willowbrook and New Springville having shared borders as well as demographics, these neighborhoods instead share districts with less Jewish areas like Great Kills and Arikar. When I lived in the 51st, my council reps ignored our neighborhood and only paid attention to the South Shore. And when I resided in the 50th, my reps paid much more attention to the East Shore than the landlocked trainless enclaves. Despite this, my request to switch the true Mid-Island neighborhoods in the 51st with those of the 50th East Shore would be politically neutral in terms of Democrat versus Republican voting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next is a Joe Leon. Oh, forgive me.
That's fine. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out, and Mr. Walcott, your leadership at DOE was wonderful. Mike, it's good to see you again. Every time we walk the path, we think about you, and we're doing our best to keep them up. I'm here not to talk about population deviation, which I find offensive. I find that word, those two words put together, offensive. We're a community. We're not a set of numbers. We're not a set of ethnicities listed on a list. I taught at Curtis High School for 44 years. It was the most amazing life. It was absolutely sensational. And no matter what anybody says about DOE, they were the best employers ever. Sent me all over the country for training and went everywhere. Why? Because our school up the street, 125 years old, drew from all over Staten Island. We were a wonderful community, supported by DOE, supported by the government here, supported by Debbie Rose and elected officials here. We are not numbers, we're people. Now, what we share in common with another borough is difficult to ascertain. They're people too. You hear a lot of discussion about the dysfunction of the North Shore, South Shore, East Shore, West Shore. Go to the mall and watch the kids walking all around together, dating one another. Come out and walk the streets. And then you see why this is such a unique district, which I cannot quantify, but I will qualify by saying I'm happy that I live here. I'm happy that I work here, and I'm happy that you will consider that when you make the decision as to whether to join us to another group of people. Thank you for your attention.
And thank you, sir. Next is virtual. Mary Bullock.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fine. I wanted to go back to Staten Island's history. Geography is destiny with us. And yes, there's an ocean between us and the rest of the city. And we had 23,000 British troops camped here in 1776. And people from the North Shore rescued George Washington's boat so he could surprise the Hessians at Trenton. And it proved to be the turning point of the war. And then after that, we grew up as the forgotten borough. And I'm asking that we be continued to be the forgotten borough in the sense that we be independent and that our districts be ourselves. We are a different state of mind. I've had people visit me from all over the world, and they said, I've never been to a place like this. I can't quite put my finger on it. And I said, well, neither can I, and I live here. So we have the right to our geographic and historic uniqueness. Plus, we need to have a dispensation from the population number because of our density. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is Reverend Terry Floyd.
My name is Terry Tran. I work for Project Hospitality, a 40-year-old interfaith effort that provides food, clothing, and shelter for homeless and hungry Staten Islanders. We serve approximately 35,000 unduplicated Staten Islanders annually. 98% of the people we serve are from the 49th Council District. I am the fourth generation of my family to live in the island's North Shore in this councilmanic district. The North Shore is a significantly diverse community. You've already heard that. We are 21% Black, 31% Latino, 11% Asian among the communities of color. We have a diverse new immigrant population that has come to Staten Island and called us home from Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and East Asia. Among those who have come to call the North Shore their home are many new Muslim communities, Sikh communities, a Buddhist center here in the North Shore, and Hindu communities. The last two new yeshivas on Staten Island, one ultra-Orthodox and one Hasidic, have opened in West Brighton and in Port Richmond in the North Shore. As well on the North Shore, we have new immigrants who struggle to achieve full civic status in the United States. 2,500 students here in Staten Island and young people who work are DACA recipients, mostly who live in the North Shore. And 15,000 Latinos live between Mariners Harbor, Port Richmond, and West Brighton without full immigration status. This gives you a sense of what the need of the community is, as well as its strength. If you look at the statistics of how much city council and city administration dollars go to support the struggling North Shore, you will find that dollars are spent here in gun violence prevention, benefits access, the health and hospitals, community health care, large grants to Richmond University Medical Center to support the care of indigent and uninsured persons, after-school programs, out-of-school work programs. The number of families on public assistance are highest here in this district. We need one city council member who will be the strength of the voice of our diverse communities who struggle to survive on this North Shore. We need one council district that represents the needs of underrepresented Staten Islanders, who can fight for the dollars that translate into school graduations, high school and college, healthy families, a trained workforce, seriously affordable housing, that translate into community survival and to a community that thrives. Dividing the voice of that council member would diminish the strength of the voice and reduce the power of a community that seeks to repair its present and to determine its future. Taking marginalized communities of the North Shore, and not all our communities are marginalized, and placing it into a downtown Manhattan district or a Mid-Island Council district could further marginalize the people who ache for a voice, for relief from present-day suffering, and for a voice in their future, which is our future. By separating us out on the North Shore, we can effectively disempower the overwhelming communities along the shore from Arlington to Park Hill, and even further separate the communities that suffer similar problems and seek similar solutions. We've come so far in these last 12 years to make our voice heard in this city. Trim if you must, but look to the neighborhoods that may be similar in demographics or in income or in density to Mid-Island neighborhoods and other parts of our borough. As you make that decision, we do not want to lose the voice of an elected official dedicated to know and serve the disenfranchised yet vibrant communities that we call our North Shore home. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Virtual. Kelly Brown. Kelly Brown.
Hello. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Jelly Brown. president of the Little Liberia Advocacy, and former president of the Staten Island Liberian Community Association. I currently sit on Community Board 1, and I personally want to say that the efforts to dissolve the 49th district amounts to not just being divisive, but it will amount to building a wall that would deprive our community, especially the Liberian community, of facilities, of support services that are already very minimal or lacking. So I come to say tonight that the overall objective of redistricting, we're supposed to provide fair representation of residents and prevent arbitrary or discriminatory boundaries is what is going to happen here if you succeed in deleting or removing the 49th district. That is going to be very discriminatory and it's going to be arbitrary. So you will in fact be defeating the main criteria of redistricting, which is to keep the community compact. The contiguity of the community is also going to be diminished very highly. So in this light, we are requesting, appealing that you do your best to preserve the 49th district. Doing so will keep our culture and other attributes that make our community distinguished. All of those are going to be kept intact. And we are indeed appealing that you do all you can do to keep our community as the 49th district. Thank you very much.
And thanks for your testimony. Next, we have Iowa Washington.
Hello to everybody. I'm from Park Hill, and I have been living in Park Hill for the past 13 years. And just at first hand, this redistricting is really going to have a serious impact on us. First, I start with the June 28th election. It was a serious problem with the voters. They didn't know where to go to vote. We had to be transferring people from one place to another. They got so confused. There were people who needed to vote to not vote. So I'm standing here today. We have worked so hard for our voices to be heard. And we are asking that we keep it together. We don't want to be separated. We want to stay together. We are one. We are diverse and we want to remain diverse. So we are asking that you please keep the 49th district together. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is virtual. Kira Minorino.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Cara Manarino. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm a constituent of Councilwoman Joanne Ariola and Senator Joe Adabo. I grew up in Howard Beach and have lived here for 30 years. I watched my parents rebuild my childhood home after Hurricane Irene and again after Hurricane Sandy. Our elected representatives have always understood the unique needs of our community, especially the issues that affect flood zones and homes along the shoreline. I believe that thriving, successful communities are forged through bonds cultivated between neighbors. And the relationships that we have with our community-based elected representatives are a necessary foundation for a strong, happy, and successful community. Having to work with new reps who are not community-based would inevitably result in these bonds being weakened and the efficacy of our district's projects being diluted. Old and New Howard Beach function as one cohesive whole. We share the 106th Precinct, Community Board 10, and the Howard Beach Lindenwood Civic Association. We have monthly meetings where residents of Howard Beach and Lindenwood, Councilwoman Ariola, and our NCOs come together to talk about community projects, both new and ongoing. Our elected representatives have been part of our community for my entire life. For well over 20 years, Councilwoman Ariola has demonstrated the importance of having leaders who feel a sincere attachment to the people they represent. As our councilwoman, she treats our neighborhood with genuine care and works very closely with Senator Joe Adabo. They've given special attention to the wildlife in Jamaica Bay, removing abandoned boats that were polluting our waterways for years. Since they're community-based, they understand the particular needs of community members, from our small business owners along Cross Bay Boulevard to people like my parents, whose main concerns are the catch basins and high tides. Any further economic development, environmental projects, and public safety initiatives cannot be fully realized if our community is fractured and our representatives aren't familiar with our neighborhood. I've listened to the previous hearings, and it seems that despite the differences between our communities, we finally found common ground in our reluctance to accept the proposed map. As for my own community, Howard Beach would essentially be divided into 3 separate neighborhoods, depriving its citizenry of effective representation. Howard Beach would ultimately dissolve into surrounding communities. I love my neighborhood, and I appreciate and respect the communities that surround Howard Beach. I hope the commission will consider keeping our Howard Beach family intact and within the same district. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Is it Yamel Flores?
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Yamel Flores. As far as I remember, Staten Island is my home. I live in New Brighton area and work in the North Shore. In the last 2 years, I have worked with outreach efforts to our community with COVID response, test and trace with health and hospitals, and the COVID disparity work with New York City Department of Health. From experience and observation traveling, the North Shore has the largest concentration of people of color in Staten Island. The largest number of Sri Lankan outside of the country of Sri Lanka, and most likely the largest number of Liberians outside of Liberia. The largest number of Hispanics live in the North Shore as well. One thing is for sure, the people in Manhattan didn't go through the experience like the residents of the Black and Brown community in the island. We need to remain one council district so that the needs of our community of color, which are the most impoverished communities, have a singular voice that reflects the needs of these communities, which are so different from the rest of the borough. I urge you not to separate our communities of color on this North Shore and diminish the power of the majority representation of people of color in the North Shore district.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Next is President Stephanie Ward.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you for your time and consideration today. I'm here as a resident of the 49th City Council District, a product of its public schools from K to 12, and a representative of the grassroots group Staten Island Women Who March. Many of our members are also residents of the North Shore. After the New York State Assembly redistricting, it is clear that it is more important than ever to protect this community's collective power for the North Shore of Staten Island. Echoing what my former councilwoman Rose said, and so many strong community members here, the 49th district is one of the most diverse districts in New York City and the most diverse on Staten Island. But it is worth repeating that this is where communities of color and immigrant communities are more concentrated on the island. To dilute the power of this community any further would be a great disservice to this district and in Staten Island as a whole. The North Shore has different needs than the rest of Staten Island and other parts of the city, as far as housing, transportation, economic needs, and needs a representative and a voice that can advocate for the North Shore specific needs. If this district is split up with another borough or even bleeds into a bit more mid-island, I fear community members will not get the support and representation that's deserved and needed. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Darcy Bishop.
Thank you, Chair and District Commission members.
My name is Marcy Bishop, and today I'm here to share the testimony on behalf of Councilmember Camilla Hanks, who represents District 49, the North Shore of Staten Island, and is also a lifelong resident. The council member is asking the district commission to support maps that keep the district representing the North Shore of Staten Island entirely within the borough. The New York City Charter instructs the district commission to keep communities of interest together, and that could be of no greater significance to District 49. It is abundantly clear to North Shore residents and to all Staten Islanders that the interests and the needs of its constituents are distinctive, even from those of neighboring boroughs like Brooklyn and Manhattan. The North Shore has the largest minority community on Staten Island. It took former council member Debbie Rose 25 years to become the first African-American elected into office here. As her successor and the current council member, with the privilege of serving the North Shore, Councilmember Hanks is only the second African-American woman to hold the seat in the borough's history. Together, they have a proven commitment to this district, and it is in its interests, which are further represented by the myriad of diverse community leaders and organizations, including from the African American, Latin American, Central American, Southeast Asian, and West African communities. Compared to the rest of Staten Island, the North Shore is particularly unique in terms of race and ethnicity. If expanded into another borough, this uniqueness would be diluted due to potential cultural and socio-economic implications. Adding this district to another borough would change its dynamic and silence the voices of its constituents, as well as jeopardize the residents needed for the district to, the resources needed for the district to thrive. Staten Island is a special place, especially when compared to its four counterpart boroughs. The council member wholeheartedly supports the efforts of the other members of the Staten Island delegation, Minority Leader Joe Borelli, and Council Member David Carr, in ensuring that the needs of the entire borough are met and that all its residents are considered throughout the districting process. Splitting District 49 between other boroughs would do an injustice to its residents and community organizations who have historically been underrepresented and unheard. And as its city representative, Councilmember Hanks urges you not to let that happen. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you, and please give our regards and thanks to the council member as well. Thank you very much. Next is virtual. Regina Cassidy.
Hello, and thank you, Chairman Walcott and friends. My name is Dr. Regina Cassidy, and I'm a lifelong Staten Islander. I grew up and lived in the Mid-Island section of Staten Island for 24 years, and now have lived on the North Shore of Staten Island for over 40 years. I've worked on both shores as a teacher, social worker, and religious leader. The North Shore of Staten Island is unique, diverse, as you've heard before, and very complex. We are a community rich in ethnicities, cultures, faiths, political viewpoints, parks, cultural centers, and even and especially delightful food. However, the needs of the North Shore are unique as well. Our population is dense, and housing remains one of our highest challenges and priorities. Adequate, affordable rental units are hard to find, as well as houses that lower to middle can actually buy. The homeless population is definitely larger on the North Shore, and supportive housing is essential for recovery and rehabilitation. Access to healthcare is also an ongoing challenge. I've worked on both shores as a social worker at Richmond University Medical Center and Bailey Seton Hospital, and at Staten Island Hospital. There are simply not enough medical and mental health resources on Staten Island on the North Shore for our large population in general. And however, on the North Shore, access to clinics, especially those that can be reached by public transportation, are few and far between. I firmly believe that the North Shore should have its own representative or representatives to advocate for the needs of our people and our community. I love the North Shore. I acknowledge its beauty and I acknowledge what it lacks. And thank you for your attention and thank you for this meeting.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is Colmena, is that?
Hello. Oh, excuse me. My name is Colleen Suzak, and I'm going to be reading this statement on behalf of Staten Island Board President Vito Pasella. And this is also in response to the testimony of Joseph Borelli, who is the council member of the 51st District. We support Councilmember Joe Borelli's testimony, which strongly recommends that the New York City Districting Commission should keep Staten Island's 3 city council districts within the borough. With redistricting on the horizon, a split of the council districts between Staten Island and Brooklyn or Staten Island and Manhattan would be a disadvantage to our constituents. We are unique as a borough. As someone who has represented both Staten Island and Brooklyn, as a former member of Congress, I can tell you firsthand that there are different needs and priorities based on the constituencies in these 2 boroughs. Additionally, maintaining 2 district offices has its budgeting constraints. We have different voices on issues compared to the rest of the city. Let's not dilute Staten Island's voting power by splitting the district. It is important that we preserve the geographical integrity of our borough with the 3 existing council districts already drawn. Thank you for your time.
And thank you, and in regards to the borough president. as well. Thank you very much. Next, virtual. Deborah Smith.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good evening. Thank you for having this format to allow us to testify. My name is Debbie Smith, and I am the president of the Airfield Civic Association in the 31st Council District. I have lived in this community for many years, and I am actively involved and aware of changes in my community. It is very important to keep 31st Council District as a whole. This includes Auburn by the Sea, Auburn, Brookville, Edgemere, Far Rockaway, Rosedale, Laurelton, and Springfield Garden. We in 31st work very hard for the Auburn by the Sea project to be in the Empire Zone, which was a state project by helped to empower an underserved community as 31st Council District. Certain criteria had to be met by the developer, and Auburn by the Sea was the most successful. They employed people from the district to work, and a beautified community was built. This enabled a lot of Black and Brown residents to acquire wealth and purchases homes and condos. ABTS sponsor many events and give back added benefit to the community. This result in lasting friendship with the resident of 31st and ABTS to this date. Please do not separate Auburn by the Sea from 31st Council District. I work as a poll worker at all elections. Last year, the state legislature at congressional seat went through the redistricting process, and we saw the results in the last primary election. Many voters were displaced from their usual place of voting, which was a disaster. And that caused a lot of people not to vote. They were displaced to other sites, far away from their homes. We do not want that to happen with 31st Council District. Why did this happen? The 31st Council District has drawn up in 1980 and has worked well for all. I believe that our council member has the required number of votes in her district, and we do not want to change that. We have had many disasters such as Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Ida, and COVID-19. And this incredible diverse neighborhood work closely together to overcome all obstacles. We do not want to be separate. It is important that the 31st Council District stay as is, as present. Our present council member play an integral role in the beginning of the JFK redevelopment project. JFK is a big economic driver in 31st Council District, and who is better to hold on to JFK Airport than the 31st Council District? We in this Rockaways and Rosedale encounter and endure all the health and hazard problem from JFK. So it is important that we reap some of the benefits. I urge the commissioner to take heed of my request as they continue their redistricting progress. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Edward C.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ed Jones. I'm the President of Staten Island in the Deviation. I thank you for allowing us this time today to do points. First of all, as I said before, that the North Shore is a very diversified community, Black, brown, immigrant community, very diversified. And we are in the process of trying to develop a strong voice, a strong voting power. And I would hate to see that broken up. And I see absolutely no power, no reason or rhyme why we should be part of Manhattan or Brooklyn. They're two distinct communities. Even here in Staten Island, you heard someone testify a little while ago about Westerly and about a certain section of Westerly should not be part of the Westerly district. Well, someone also said there's an article in today's Advance about what he's saying about, I don't know what he said right away, but anyway, going back to 2 months ago, there was an issue in the Statement Project about cooking gas. And Brian Leon, the editor of Staten Island Advance, said that nowhere else in Staten Island this situation occurred. So he gives me the impression that he thinks there's something wrong with the way Staten Island views the North Shore. That's my interpretation. So I see no value why the North Shore should be split up at all. To keep intact right now, let's build a strong voice and a strong voting power, because I'm not quite sure any other section of Staten Island wants the North Shore. So my concept is keep the North Shore intact as it right now, let's build a strong voice and strong voting power. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. Next, virtual. Say that again, please. Arlette.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, and good afternoon.
Great. My name is Arlette Cepeda, and I am the Deputy Director of La Colmena. I want to thank the committee members for holding this important hearing. La Colmena is a worker center on the North Shore of Staten Island, providing dispatching, job dispatching, site safety training, referrals, and additional opportunities for immigrant workers. La Colmena supports advocacy efforts that protect workers' rights. Both of our locations are within the district experiencing map line changes. We believe the redistricting maps proposed do not fairly represent the communities that we serve. Fair districts are the foundation for a fair representation. The proposed lines will diminish and dilute the voices of Black, Brown, and Asian people. It will minimize the voices of those that need resources and support, reducing funding and programs our communities desperately need. As former council member Debbie Rose mentioned, with statistics from the 2020 census data, the North Shore is one of the most diverse areas in Staten Island, representing people from all walks of life, including class, religion, ethnicity, and family structure. Representation matters, and the proposed maps do not fairly represent the people of the North Shore on Staten Island. We ask that the maps consider fair representation of minority groups, including Hispanics such as myself. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your time. Just one point of information, there aren't any maps yet. I just want to be very clear with the public at large, and that's what this process is about. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that this whole process is to develop the first round of maps, we're calling them draft maps, and then having further public testimony in August, and then we'll have a new round as well. So I just wanted to be straight up with the public as far as where we are right now. Next in person is Andres Cassidy. Right.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. My name is Andres Garcia. I'm the co-executive director of the Staten Island Immigrant Center. I write to urge this commission to not take a part of the 52% majority people of color in Staten Island's District 49, Staten Island's North Shore. We are a predominantly Caucasian borough with less than 2% of all the students, school students south of Staten Island Expressway representing communities of color, a reflection of segregated housing patterns on Staten Island. Here on the North Shore, we pride ourselves on diversity. We have integrated neighborhoods, integrated schools, and we struggle with issues of poverty, lack of affordable housing, the need for more jobs, entry-level jobs, and jobs training, and we struggle with street violence, particularly with youth. The City Council devotes significant dollars to be sure to support programs for out-of-school youth, for summer youth programs, job training programs, financial entitlement programs, and we host a huge immigrant population on the North Shore. The largest West African communities on Staten Island, the largest Sri Lankan community outside of Sri Lanka. Among our Latino population, more than 50 different languages and dialects are spoken by indigenous people from Peru, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, to name a few of the indigenous peoples that live on the North Shore. And there is one council member seat that looks after us and speaks for us so that our needs may be made known to the City Council and the city administration. Separating our majority people of color neighborhoods and apportioning them to either Lower Manhattan or Mid-Island would reduce the voting power and the civic power of this unique people of color majority council district. We urge you not to do that because it will significantly damage our effort to secure funds that for much needed services that will provide for our present day poor and for the future of our children. A lot is at stake in this redistricting, and we have worked hard to achieve the first, second, and third person of color to represent us in City Council and the State Assembly. Do not undo what we have done, electing an official that represents the majority of our North Shore. Thank you.
And thank you, sir, for your testimony. Mr. Baker. Batu Master. Thank you. Master. All right, I'll get it eventually. My apologies. Gene Hill. I will come back to Gene Hill.
Yes, can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, great. My name is Gene Guerra, and I am the Travis Civic Association president here on Staten Island. I previously lived in the Bronx, New York, where I was born and raised, but have been a Staten Island resident now for 48 years. I have no maps. I have no statistics. I have just common sense, except for a minuscule number of similarities. There can be no comparison made between the needs of Staten Islanders and any other borough in the city of New York. Our public transportation needs are far different. Our roadway needs are far different. Our commuter needs are far different. Our rail system is far different. Simply put, our overall way of life here on Staten Island is far different than any other borough in the city of New York. I've lived in the Bronx, I've worked in Manhattan, I've worked in Brooklyn, I've been to Queens, and I've lived on Staten Island for almost 50 years. These are just a few of the reasons that I ask that the Staten Island districts remain self-contained on the island and not blended into Brooklyn as is being proposed. Our needs here on Staten Island are far too different and far too important to us Staten Islanders than to get sucked up in and convoluted into another borough's ways. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is, Geraldo Robles. Michelle Molina.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having this hearing. It is hard at this point not to be redundant on so much that has been said. For the most part, I have to say, let me introduce myself. My name is Michelle Molina, Executive Director of El Centro de Inmigrante, Staten Island Immigrant Center, as well as Andres Garcia just spoke, also from our organization. And we have been serving the community for 25 years. And in this matter, it would be the immigrant community. We are imploring that this redistricting is not done in the matter in the way that it's proposed so far. I am lost my train of thought. That's all right. And we are the first and only center to be open on Staten Island with a majority of immigrant board directors. I'm a Latino woman living on Mariners Harbor with my husband and my 2 children. So I am here to represent not only my organization, but the community that I live in and the families of our district. And the intention of redistricting in this matter, we would not like for it to be diluted and for the Hispanic voting power to be diluted in a sense. And as I was mentioned before, also, we are extremely diverse. And for our North Shore in particular, there are 50 dialects spoken by the people from Latin America, and nowhere else on Staten Island can you find that kind of minority within a minority. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Okay. Agnes Van Dyne.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm a resident of Oakwood, Staten Island, and I've been reading about this redistricting in the newspapers, but I haven't been able to find the exact statistics that you're using for the population data. I've looked through the 2020 United States Census for the Richmond County data. I've looked at it per neighborhood in the the Puma micro data that comes out of the United States Census. And I don't know if that's, to me, it looks like the numbers are actually higher than what's been put in the newspaper. So I was wondering, could you direct us to the actual data source that's being used for the population statistics for each Staten Island, New York City Council district?
Let me have Joseph. Can you direct? I don't know if you heard the question. She just wanted to know the sources that we're using for our data. Because they can line up.
For the population data for each New York City Council district. I know it's from the 2020 United States Census.
It's based on the 2020 census without question. And
Right, because I've looked at that, but I'm not able to extrapolate myself the specific numbers for each city council district. I mean, you can go to each neighborhood pretty much. You might get 64,001 neighborhood zip code. That's where I got the statistics from Puma, which is public use microdata areas. That's out of the census. But when I add up the numbers, I come to far more than 166,000. So that's why I was wondering, could you direct us to the specific data that's being used by the New York City Council?
So our Climber, which is also located on our website, has a link to where the information comes from, and it's clickable. You can access the information through that. I'm trying to find it right now from the Climber website.
I can hardly hear you. You mean to go to your website?
Hold on one second. What we'll do is there's a primer, and the primer has the data. And also, were you on our website at all?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Put it in the chat and we'll access it. Thank you for my more technologically advanced.
Okay, will you be able to distribute it publicly to us?
It's a public document.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But we'll put it in the chat as well, and you can access it that way.
Okay, and your name?
I am Dennis Walcott.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Walcott. Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for asking the question. My pleasure.
Okay.
Okay. We have been joined by another commissioner, Maria Mateo. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Pleasure to have you. Next is Imam. If you could help me. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. I've been on Staten Island for 14 years. I've lived in every borough in New York City, some places on the state. However, Staten Island is unique. I've observed so many people who eloquently presented the facts of keeping Staten Island as an independent entity, a part of the New York State and New York City, but not being a part of joining in Brooklyn, etc. Repetition. However, I want to start by opening it up in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, because I am an imam. And there is a spirituality that we need to consider as well, that there is an entity greater than ourselves. So that when you make the decisions, please base your decisions on the will of the people. And I've sat here and listened to the will of the people. And as administrators and people who will decide the outcome or even the lives of the future for Staten Island specifically, I think that it would be God consciousness to intervene in your decision. I see you have clergy on the board and commission, complimentary. I don't know how many board members are residents of Staten Island, but I'm certainly, God bless you. All right, Michael Stanley, God bless you. So you know the heart of Staten Island. It's like when you live at a place, then you know the place. When you visit a place, you have an idea of the place, but you don't know it until you live there. I've lived in every borough, born in Far Rockaway, New York, lived in Brooklyn, Manhattan, in the Bronx. Staten Island is the last borough that I lived in. If I lived in the place else, it'd probably be in another state. But I love Staten Island, as we all do that are here. and I agree and concur. Oh, I'm sorry. I agree and concur with our councilwoman, former councilwoman Debbie Rose, and as well as Camilla Hanks, Councilwoman Camilla Hanks, and all the other well-spoken people defending or at least representing our heartfelt desire to continue to be a separate entity on our own. Staten Island is resourceful, and it is a borough that they say forgotten borough, but it is a independent borough, a borough that depends on itself, is resolute through Sandy, Hurricane Sandy. Staten Island, I was going from Staten Island to Rockaway, back and forth as the bridges would allow. And each borough had its own specific dynamics, and Staten Island has its dynamics. So all I will implore with the clergy and with the spirituality and the humanity that you may have within your beings, please keep Staten Island the way it is. God bless.
And thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Next person. I'm sorry, didn't hear that at all. And thank you for the testimony. I heard, I'm just saying, thank you for the Paradisia.
Thank you for having me. I'd like to start off by saying that I am a third generation member of Council District 49. And I can say also that one thing I've heard tonight is that everybody, regardless of where they're from, wants a representative who understands their needs, and we are really no different. Staten Island has been very disenfranchised historically. Other boroughs have subways and travel throughout the city at nominal or no cost, pay less real estate taxes, have government provided healthcare, and overall more city services. We continue to endure an opioid epidemic. We have a waterfront that was just beginning to be developed when COVID and other issues stalled its progress. But we haven't been spared by issues of significant impact to quality of life. I think that it's very important that we have representatives who understand all of these issues, the history of potential solutions that have occurred over time, successes and failures, and that can only be done by keeping the districts exclusively on Staten Island and not sharing. Sharing will just, I believe that sharing will create a council person whose priorities will be split and competing with each other. And that, I think, would be bad for both communities. I've submitted written testimony, and I thank you very much for the opportunity.
And thank you for your testimony. Much appreciated. Next is Jason Torres. Joe Torres, I'm so sorry.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to testify. I'd like to do this really as a show of support for my neighbors. I'm a lifelong Staten Islander, born and raised in West Brighton. And, I have to kind of play into the belief that as a community, especially as North Shore Staten Islanders, we're a united people. I've had the privilege of remaining on Staten Island, where many have moved beyond the borough. I've become an employer, and I've also committed myself to service to my community. Now, one thing that we should realize is that we do have a growing concentration of need on the North Shore. I have the honor of serving as director at Project Hospitality at Richmond University Medical Center. And what we're facing here is a partnership between our elected representatives, the private sector, and our citizens within our district. And without that collective of support, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult, for us to address that need. Now, obviously, that's the sentiment that we've heard all along. But my fear is that through redistricting, it's clear that redistricting cannot abridge or deny voting rights for racial and language minorities. But we do have to think about that law of unintended consequences. And that if we redistrict, we could be inadvertently dividing a community that is intensely united. So I'd like to speak on behalf of my neighbors that we need to remain together and keep District 49 intact. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Brian Fox.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I've had the very fortunate opportunity, not just as a Bay Ridge resident, but formerly running as a city council person in District 43, to understand the fibers, the inner workings of my community within Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights. We share a lot of the same services when it comes to emergency services, the police department, and a lot of the needs are unified between Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights. And we are in a position and point in time, in my opinion, where we are beginning to address these needs. And my fear is that if there is a redistricting that happens, there will be a lot of division to happen. I think the needs outside of Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights can get and will get drastically different. And again, I've grown to learn the inner fibers, inner workings, not just of Bay Ridge, but also Dyker Heights. And there's a certain unity throughout the community. And for redistricting to happen, I fear that we are going to digress our progress and not move forward as a community. So I just wanted to voice on behalf of my neighbors and obviously as a concerned resident in Bay Ridge, that we are in a very interesting time, not just within the neighborhood, but on a national level, where we honestly have to make sure that we unify as one. And I know that as a whole of the community, I know business owners all throughout the district, and I know a lot would agree with the fact if it does get redistricted, it would be detrimental to the community and the progress that we have made. And I want to thank everybody for listening to me. Thank you so much.
And thank you, sir, for your testimony. Next is Peter Spencer.
Thank you. How you doing? I'm going to read this on behalf of the current 3 council members. It's a letter that was submitted. I just want to read it out loud as well. As elected officials representing Staten Island, we're asking that you do everything in your power to keep Staten Island's 3 city council districts, districts 49, 50, and 51, entirely within the borough as you draw new city council maps. Chapter 2A, Section 52 of the New York City Charter, which sets forth criteria for the district plan that the decennial district and commission must follow, provides explicit instructions for the commission to keep communities of interest together. Quote, district lines shall keep intact neighborhoods and communities with established ties of common interest and association, whether historical, racial, economic, ethnic, religious, or other. Furthermore, the charter states that a district shall not cross borough or county boundaries, nor shall it be drawn for the purpose of separating geographic concentrations of voters enrolled in the same political party into 2 or more districts in order to diminish the effective representation of such voters. And I think this language makes it abundantly clear that splitting one of the aforementioned city council districts between Staten Island and Brooklyn or Staten Island and Manhattan would violate both the spirit and intent of the city charter by breaking up a community of interest. A 102 square mile island, 3 times the size of Manhattan, but with less than 1/3 its population, Staten Island is very distinct from other boroughs in New York City. This starts with the fact that the only way to get to Staten Island is by bridge or boat, because we are the only borough without a subway system connecting us to the rest of the city. I think this disconnectedness has created a unique culture and imbued its residents with a strong sense of social, geographic, and political independence. Staten Island is by far the most suburban borough, with more acres of parks and open spaces than any other in the city. A majority of our residents, 69%, own their homes, while more than 3/4 of residents in Brooklyn and Manhattan, our closest neighbors, are renters. More than 83% of Staten Island households have cars, most of them more than one. In Brooklyn and Manhattan, where there are an abundance of public transportation options, excuse me, only 40% and 22% of households own cars, respectively. In Brooklyn and Manhattan, more than 70% of registered voters are Democrats and less than 9% are Republicans. Staten Island is much more politically and ideologically diverse, with 41% of voters registered as Democrats, 31% as Republicans, and the remaining split between third parties and independents. It's because of these conditions, residents across the 3 city council districts of Staten Island have much more in common with each other than they do with residents of other boroughs. especially when it comes to concerns about city policy. These concerns transcend ideology, racial and ethnic identity, and political boundaries. We care much more about property taxes and water bills, about the cost of tolls and the state of our roads and others who do not directly pay property taxes nor drive cars. Due to our varied geography and built environment, ranging from dense high-rises to sprawling suburban homes and beachfront bungalows, we have very different infrastructure and public safety needs. Because of our diverse political ideologies, we often disagree strongly with our fellow New Yorkers on legislative and budgetary issues. And this is why political representation that is entirely from Staten Island matters so much. Splitting one of the council districts with another borough will not only dilute Staten Islanders' votes, it will stifle Staten Island's distinctive voice in the city council. We ask that you preserve that voice. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Very truly yours, Joseph C. Borelli, Camilla Hanks, and David Cohen.
And thank you, and please give our best to the city council. Thank you very much. Next is virtual. Ben Weinberg.
Hello, commissioners. Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the time to testify today. My name is Ben Weinberg, and I'm the policy director at Citizens Union, an independent and nonpartisan good government group. We've been involved in redistricting for decades, including in this process, aiming to ensure that it is conducted in a fair, transparent, and independent manner. And we have trained hundreds of New Yorkers to engage with the commission. Many of them have testified before you. As this round of hearing concludes today, we just want to offer a few suggestions on how to maximize participation before the August hearings. First, we appreciate the Commission's work to improve public input by conducting these 5 preliminary hearings, by scheduling them before and after work hours, providing language interpreters, and planning to release an online mapping tool. We want to encourage the Commission to make the testimonies and proposed maps public as soon as possible. Before August, we suggest the Commission increase outreach and advertising, including multi-language advertising. Preparing a testimony takes time and effort, and the August hearing advertising should give people sufficient time to prepare, and it should also use community and ethnic media outlets and ensure that outreach is conducted in the city's 10 designated languages. So far, the invites to hearings have only been in English. We also recommend the Commission to proactively seek input from the affected areas that have not engaged in the process yet. So we've seen hundreds of people testify, which is incredible, but some council districts do remain without a voice. Actively reaching out to community-based groups and trusted messengers, especially in the neighborhoods that will see their district change, would really help. We suggest holding hearings in different marginalized communities protected under the VRA, and we offer other practical suggestions in our written testimony. One final note, after this hearing, you will move to the complex and politically delicate part of the process, which is actually map drawing. Considering the recent experience with redistricting, we urge the Commission to take explicit steps to ensure they remain impartial when discussing, negotiating, and voting on future maps. So this includes adopting a code of ethics, as many redistricting commissions do, addressing political conflicts for the members who are affiliated with incumbents or candidates or campaign activities, and also disclosing any conversations you might have related to map making with individuals outside the commission. We also suggest that the Commission accompany the draft plan map that you will issue in July with a written explanation that allows the public to understand the reasons behind the map-making decisions, the underlying data that you use for each district, and other major factors. This is also an opportunity to invite more input on specific areas which the commissioners want more information on. Thank you for giving me the time to speak today, and good luck with drawing the maps.
And thank you for your testimony. Just as a point of information, the Manhattan and Queens are up already, and they're posted, and Brooklyn will be up shortly.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Benedict Snyder, please. Oh, yeah, Doug? Say that. The hearings from Queens and Manhattan, I'm sorry, are Brooklyn will be up shortly. The testimony.
Good evening to all. My name is Benedict Snyder. I'm the president of the Staten Island Liberian community. I represent the community of over 10,000 Liberians outside of West Africa within the New York City area. And all of the previous speakers have presented the same sentiments to this body. By virtue of the Constitution, you're here to live up to that constitutional requirements. Notwithstanding, you also have the opportunity and the responsibility to listen to the voice of reasoning. All of these speakers have given you reasons to hold District 49 intact. The recent election served as a testimony. In our area, because of the uniqueness of our ethnic city, many of our senior citizens and our citizenry were at the verge of being disenfranchised during the electoral process, only because they did not have the requisite information regarding the redistricting. That's one area that needs to be looked at also. Before you go further, like I'm going to echo again, District 49 has a unique culture. From our standpoint, we run a food pantry that caters to people from all walks of life. Liberians, Haitians, Hispanic, you name it. That's the uniqueness. And if this is taken away from us, we will not be able to stand together as a community. This is our plea again. We ask that you please listen to the voice of reasoning and allow District 49 to remain as it is. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is virtual. Antoinette Donegan. Reverend.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. My apologies. I have a garbage truck in the background, so I do apologize for the extra noise. I want to first thank you for allowing me to speak virtually today. I reside currently in the Manus Harbor area. I work and I worship in the Stapleton area. I have been a resident for over 40 years. I speak as clergy, community advocate, and concerned citizen. Separating the North Shore, having it be a part of another part of either Brooklyn or wherever would be a tremendous disaster. The current composition of this very racial, diverse community in the North Shore is different than other parts of Staten Island, and our needs are very different and many. By suggesting that separating the North Shore would not be the best interest of the community members that live here. We are unique in our composure, meaning, as you've heard, we have large numbers of West African descent, Asians, Hispanics, and African Americans. By splitting the North Shore, the representation, the needed resources, which includes housing, medical facilities, and transportation, would be a huge challenge. For the North Shore depends on public transportation greatly, more than other parts of Staten Island. The majority of the North Shore do not have 2 cars. Some don't have 1 car. They depend on public transportation, and unlike other boroughs, the only thing we have are buses. We on the North Shore are facing a gun violence crisis. It is fueled by high poverty pockets in our community, which no one can address or understand but our elected officials that are already in office at present, or like some previous, like our former councilwoman, who are native Staten Islanders. Our voice is unique and is powerful. We need to stay as a whole in the 49th district. Our needs on the North Shore are very different. They are unlike any other borough in the whole New York City. And I don't wish to continue to be redundant, but I want to reiterate that the North Shore should not be separated, and it will result in being swallowed up by other parts of Brooklyn. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Reverend. Samuel. Samuel. Sampson, sorry. Samuel? I'm sorry. If you could just say your full name. No? We go at you. Yeah.
Thank you.
And for the record, can you just say it again so that way?
My full name is Samuel Owusu Sechwe. Call me SOS. Yeah, I echo the same thoughts that most of the speakers are echoing. And there is a uniqueness about Staten Island that I come from, originally from Ghana. And we have a tradition and a culture that is very synonymous of most of the West African residents on Staten Island. If I'll just go back a few years, we had the cultural diversity program that was being held at Wagner College that involved a showcase of about 13 different cultures that were residents of Staten Island. And you could see the diversity, the tapestry of colors of the various cultures that existed on Staten Island during those days. For some reason, that program was defunded and it was stopped. But it enabled so many students who lived in and around New York City to come and experience the various cultures that existed in Staten Island. And most of these projects were funded through our council representatives and through the legislature that was existing at that time. And since that program was defunded, I believe most of you have kids or graduates in your homes who, when they go to graduation ceremonies, put on these fancy painted things around their neck. And it's become a symbol of so many things to racial programs nationwide. But that is what Staten Island is. This is the only place where you can find a local traditional loom made from Ghana, but it was constructed here by an Italian contractor, Italian worker from Wagner. I mean, how do you, just from a picture that we gave him with the dimensions and everything, this guy was able to construct a direct replica of a kente loom. And we have 4 of them. I haven't seen any in any other state or any other borough. And this is what Staten Island stands for. Please keep 49 together. Thank you.
Sir. Diamond Dumas. Diamond Dumas. We'll do another virtual one. Anthony Reinhardt.
Hello. Am I good?
Yes,
Hold on.
welcome.
Okay. Sorry. Good evening, Chair Wolcott, members of the district and commission. My name is Anthony Reinhardt, and I am the chairman of the Staten Island Republican Party. As this commission continues forward with its important work, I respectfully urge that the forthcoming map proposal take into account the uniqueness of our Staten Island community. A community of interest unto its own, the people of Staten Island can be best represented at the municipal level of government by elected officials whose district lines are wholly contained within Richmond County. The 49th, 50th, and 51st council districts, as they stand today, are wholly contained within our county. As has been highlighted by the commission, the charter, and state law, there's a need to keep communities of interest together, and there's a desire to limit crossover districts. The Staten Island community is unique to our city in numerous ways. For instance, we are the only borough to have just one school district, District 31. You'll also find that local nonprofit organizations, some whom you've heard from already today, are indeed headquartered right here in the community that they serve. Local schools, local nonprofits, local residents would all be dealt a disservice if any of our 3 council districts are extended into another borough. It should be noted that as the lines currently exist, all residents can reach their council member's office without incurring a bridge toll. If any of these Staten Island districts are extended into another borough, residents from one side or the other will find themselves paying a hefty toll just to be able to engage in the events and services of their council member. This would be a great disservice to the people of that given district. As we have heard from many of the speakers before me, Staten Islanders, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, understand that our borough is best served by elected officials who are based solely within our borough. And in sum, the 51st, 50th, and 49th districts are unique and are best suited to remain completely within the borders of Richmond County. To do otherwise would dilute Staten Island's representative power. Our Staten Island community of interest will be best represented by doing so. Thank you so much.
And thank you for your testimony. Next is Helen Sutter.
Good afternoon. Okay, welcome to this kaleidoscope mosaic of a borough, particularly the North Shore. And I say that my name is Helen Suttles. I was an educator for 36 years on Staten Island. And many of the schools, even where our president city councilwoman went, I is 61. And I have seen, and I've continued to live here since 1973. I came here in 1968 when the bridge was 50 cents. So, right, so, and the ferry was a nickel. So I go back, but I've continued to live here since 1973. I taught school here 36 years. I even taught at Willowbrook State School before Geraldo Rivera did his expose. I've taught in the public schools, and I have seen Staten Island uniqueness. South Shore, Mid-Island, North Shore, but North Shore is my home. This is where I have worked and worked with just hundreds and hundreds of youth in this community. I am presently the Civic Engagement Chairperson for the Staten Island branch of the NAACP, and I've worked very closely with many organizations that work with youth. I am a proud member of Project Hospitality's Board of Directors for 35 years, and I have seen what we have done in this, North Shore community. The people we have fed, the people we have helped, and for the commission, well, hopefully the commission won't consider splitting the council districts of Staten Island, particularly the North Shore. The North Shore is unique and diverse, and the people here work and live as a family. And we know we don't want to split families up because for years I've worked to keep families together. So let's keep the North Shore together. All the different non-for-profits who work in the North Shore and work with all the people of Staten Island, let's keep them together because we are one diverse mosaic kaleidoscope of a borough. Thank you.
And thank you for the testimony. Next person. Hector Fernandez.
Hi, can you hear me?
If we can.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for hearing our community comments and concerns. I concur with the overwhelming majority of speakers. One thing that should always be taken into account is that there are always winners and losers to any change of this nature. And this is just a fact of life. What we need to do is to ensure that Staten Island does not lose from this redistricting. I grew up in Corona, Queens. I was born and raised in Queens. My family purchased a house here in Staten Island in 2006. I've raised my kids here and we made a life here. But when one thinks about Staten Island, it's really its own animal. It's really very different than the other boroughs. For example, when I first moved here, after the first big rain, my basement flooded. I went to Home Depot and I said, what's happening? They said, that's Staten Island. Everyone here needs a sump pump if you got a house because your basement might flood. When I was thinking of leaving my job in downtown to work in Midtown, I had to factor the time that it would take to get here. Because again, we have very unique commute experiences. I have a colleague who lives in Philadelphia, and the Amtrak that she takes gets her to a job in an hour and a half, about 15 minutes more than my express bus. So imagine. Any other borough in the city, kids don't need to drive, or families might not even have a car. Kids definitely don't need to drive at 17 because there are subways everywhere. I remember taking subways to any place in the city as a kid in Queens. Not my kids, there are no subways here. They either have to take the bus or I have to drive them places. The reason I say all of this is that Staten Island, again, is a different animal. A person from Brooklyn does not know that Highland Boulevard can flood during a storm or a strong rainstorm because of whatever the plumbing issues are over there. Or that if one visits Clove Lakes Park, they can be accosted by 47 turkeys that may or may not be friendly. Or that a deer may run into your car while driving on the Staten Island Expressway and give you a dirty look. I never knew any of that when I lived in Queens. I do now as I live in Staten Island. As Staten Island has such unique issues, so distinct from the other boroughs of the city, it should remain separate. Merging it with Brooklyn or Lower Manhattan will inevitably lead to the risk of our neighbors losing services, losing representation that understands them. For that reason, we should strive to keep Staten Island District separate and distinct from the other boroughs. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is it Abu? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. And we really commend this initiative coming to Staten Island to actually include us in the process. This is called transparency and accountability, and I stand for that. Today, I'm going to wait. Usually I don't, but I want to be quick because I'm pledging for the cause of the Staten Island community, because Staten Island is one community and it is indivisible. And we will not let Staten Island to be divided. My name is Abusi Jahate. I'm an advocate and community organizer. I am the co-chair of Staten Island Immigrant Council. I heard Reverend Troyer and so many of my fellow leaders who have been working hard to maintain and to promote inclusion and diversity in our community. We all echo the same song. And again, I'm going to reiterate that because we have come a long way and we don't want to go from square one, because all this hard work that we have done over years and years should not be vain. Therefore, Chairman, and all the commission sitting here today, I would like really to urge that we keep the existing Staten Island Council District. We don't want to go back from square one, as I said earlier, because as a community, we have so many differences. I'm originally from Senegal, West Africa. And after I crossed the Atlantic, Staten Island is a borough that welcomed me. This is my second house, although it's 7-hour flight to Senegal. And why I'm saying that, because the uniqueness of the borough, again, we don't want to jeopardize that. Because having this redistricting, the first question I ask myself is why? Why? Of course, statistics can be silent. I'm not going to go back to statistics, but if you look at the gap from 2000 and 2010, it's not that big. Yes, it's a difference, slight difference. That should not be a reason to come up with this initiative by really dividing our district. And I didn't read much, but I strongly recommend that the New York City District Commission should keep Staten Island within its own borough because the reality and the difference are so huge. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, of course, we all New Yorkers, but they have their own reality. We have been fighting for fair share in our district where access should be the key word, access to resource because nobody should be left behind. The process only recognize one word, which is inclusiveness. In 2020, I think we all have equity plan. We're all fighting for inequality, but inequality should not be lip services because the constitution that we wanted to preserve and the constitution that we wanted to promote has one main component, which is human rights. And human rights is everywhere, including Staten Island. Thank you again for this initiative.
And thank you for your testimony. Rachel? Catherine Qatari. Okay. Catherine Qatari.
How are you?
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Catherine Qatari. I'm a lifelong Brooklynite, and I grew up in Flatbush, and I moved to Bay Ridge later in life because I was a business owner. And I don't know whose idea it is about redistricting city councils and dividing the communities. We've come a long way in uniting our communities and addressing the needs of everyone in our communities. And Staten Island, I have family members there. I know about their flooding, their turkeys, their deer, their skunks, the whole thing, and them being like a stepchild in the city of New York. But if you start redistricting everything, you're going to make us all stepchildren. And we all fought to be a united New York, not to be a divided. And you keep getting these companies that have nothing to do with New York as consultant firms and experts. But the only experts in the room are us New Yorkers. We don't want to be divided. We don't want city council to preach anymore to us. You did enough damage under the coronavirus, and we're still suffering with that. And now you want to break us up. We're not going to stand for it. We're going to fight to the bitter end, and we want to keep our districts the way and remain. Stop dividing us because it's not going to work. Remember your oath, and we the people rule at the end of the day. And we're going to stand firm, and we're going to fight together. I'll fight with Staten Island, and I'm sure Staten Island will fight with us. But keep Brooklyn in Brooklyn, Staten Island in Staten Island, Bay Ridge in Bay Ridge, Flatbush in Flatbush. You know the name. Please don't disregard our voices because we're here, we're going to stay, and we're going to fight for our communities. No more relying on the city to tell us what's right for us and our families. We're done with that. Remember your oath. Remember the Constitution. And we're proud Americans, and we're going to fight as one unit. Thank you for hearing me. And please hear our words and take them to consideration. We're done talking. We're ready to fight forward. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Is it Mohammed Chaveri?
Good evening. First of all, welcome to this Forgotten Borough. I hope with your help, we will not be forgotten in the future. And our elected officials here and distinguished leaders from our community, we are together here in Staten Island. I'll give you one story before I introduce myself. A new immigrant called me from a South Asian country, Bangladesh. He's newly immigrated with his family and asked me about the
in the East Coast, what would be the best city to raise his 3 daughters. And when I said to him, I live in Staten Island, it's a borough within the New York City. I believe it is one of the best borough. And I brought all my family members since 1996 years. I have more than 40 families here now. They are my relatives, my friends. And why I said it, you can ask me question. It is poor public transportation. Our communication is different. I would not say bad. We are fighting to improve our communication system. Our leaders are working hard to improve this communication. But my point is, Staten Island is unique. Many people say Turkey, Diaz, Ferry, Verrazano Bridge. This is not all. The people of the Staten are very close tight community. I'm not saying only District 49 where I live. I'm talking about Staten Island is such a unique because we are together during the Sunday, during our sadness, during our happiness. We are a community that we want to be together. Please do not try to consider us as the census number. You all know this thing. During the census, the COVID prevented many population, many groups to put their name and listed on the census. So few thousand less people does not mean that you can use that threshold to divide us and add us with other community across the world. That will not help our community. It will not help our politicians. It will not help the city of New York. Please consider us as a community, not the census number. Let's talk about myself. I am Mohammed Karim Chaudhry, National Secretary for Alliance of South Asian American Labor. I also sit in various statewide positions in New York State Public Employee Federation, including e-board member, co-chair for a statewide affirmative action committee. I also sit over here as a what is called the judicial delegate and New York Richmond County Democratic Party Executive Board. Being said this, what I do, I represent my community here. My organization, ASAL, Alliance of South Asian American Labor, would like to submit a written statement to this distinguished commission to consider about the South Asian issue. But ASAL does not only represent the South Asians, ASAL also build coalition with other community groups. And we are together in this journey. My humble request, please do not consider us as number. Consider our unique culture, unique needs, unique social life. Every day I work in Manhattan, in 125th Street. I use every day 1 hour 45 minutes, one-way travel and come back. And many of my statewide colleagues ask me, why you are not getting a house in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Bronx, or even Queens. Many of you South Asian people live here. I said when I moved to Staten Island in 1996, my family moved here. We are in love with this borough. We love its borough's culture, needs, and the people of this borough. So every time when we come, yes, thank you. When we come every day to the ferry, we see 70,000 people use that ferry, and we build our relationship, one way going, one way coming. Thank you for your time. I wish you all will vote to keep us together, not divide us. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, virtual. Fong Ray Griffin. Lorraine? Lorraine. Okay, I've got two different pronunciations from up here. That's Lorraine Griffin. Ms. Griffin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Good evening, Chair Walcott and members of the commission. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Faraine Griffith, and I am the chair of the Manhattan 10 Neighborhood Advisory Board, otherwise known as NAB, at the Department of Youth and Community Development, DYCD, which covers Central Harlem from 110th Street from between Fifth Avenue to Morningside Park, St. Nicholas Park, up to Jackie Robinson Park, all the way west to 160th Street and Harlem River Drive. I am testifying today regarding the possible changes to Council District 9 and the effect that it may have to the Neighborhood Advisory Board. The Neighborhood Advisory Board assists the city with allocating funding, federal funding for program services and activities for Title I funded communities under the Community Service Block grants based on community needs. Although the funding is federal and based on census data, it's allocated to communities below the national poverty line within the boundaries of both the community board and city council. I am concerned if the northern part of Council District 9, which includes the Polo Grounds, Wrangell, NYC houses, and the world famous Rucker Park is redistricted into the Washington Heights district, may have an impact on the program services and activities in Central Harlem. The Polo Grounds has the Police Athletic League that receives Title I funding that services the youth from Harlem River, Polo Grounds and Wrangell, Drew Hamilton, NYC complexes, and the residents in between. Council District 9 has a very large senior population, and many live in the Polo Grounds and Wrangell houses that participate with many of the program services and activities, funded by the Neighborhood Advisory Board and DYCD, such as senior centers and food pantries, to name a few. CD9 has a rich culture, a rich and historic culture. It is the heartbeat of Harlem. When you think of Harlem, you think of Central Harlem. Council District 9 is the only district in the city council that has a Black African-American representation for the borough of Manhattan. Every 3 years, the DYCD conducts a community needs assessment, and the Neighborhood Advisory Board ensures those needs are met with funding the adequate program services and activities. The Neighborhood Advisory Board has done extensive community outreach and work for the residents of CD9 to ensure they have a thriving community and quality of life. We wouldn't want to see that work or the funding be taken away due to redistricting, because the AMI is getting higher, and it will eventually push out the residents who qualify for said Title I funding. I thank you for this opportunity to speak before you this evening, and have a great night.
And thank you, and the same to you. Robert Perkins. And as you walk up, let me say thank you for all your help.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate your work you put in through the years too. I remember you, thank you. Mr. Michael Schnell, Roadrunners, right? That's Robert Perkins. We communicated a couple of times, man. We got to get up. All right. Well, first and foremost, I definitely thank you all guys for allowing me to come up here and speak. Yeah. I got a couple of things to say. First and foremost, you heard so much of a lot of the same language, right? You heard diluted, you heard injustice, you heard family. And one thing about Staten Island, we are family. Dysfunctional a whole lot of times, right? A whole lot of times, but we family. Community big time. Same people you see in the room, you see on the ground all the time. I see these people everywhere except my backyard barbecue. I'm looking forward to y'all coming to the backyard. Rich in culture, unique. Air Force veteran. I've been around the world several times. I've never been to a place like Staten Island. Promise you that. You heard third generation, fourth generation. It's real. People, this is home. I'm a transplanted from Harlem. I came out here about 33 years ago and got stuck.
They adopted me, I adopted them, and I regret not one moment. I'm actually the first African-American district leader in Staten Island history. Along with my counterpart, Jazzy Robinson, also the first African Latino district leader in Staten Island history. Along with the first, Debbie Rose, who's the first African-American councilwoman in Staten Island history. And it's not to say that, go African-American. What I'm saying is how things change, but yet it remains the same in the sense that regardless of the title, it's never about that. It's about the work. I sit back, I look at Terry Troyer. I fed personally about 250,000 family row Staten Island. And if I did, she fed 25 million. I promise you that. I look at Abu, he's here. I look at the Golden Girls, the mayor of Staten Island, Mrs. Margie Garvin. I look at Mrs. Dixon. I look at my man Iman from Beit Al Jamat. I look at my man from Park Hill. These are people you see on the ground all the time. All the time. There's a saying, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. It ain't broke. A little dysfunctional. People take into consideration Staten Island just the way New York is. New York is pricing people out, so these numbers are going to change. COVID done messed people up, not just physically, but mentally. We're gonna be shifting and changing. But you know what? We are working together. The same people you see in this room here, you see together. You're talking about ASAL, NAACP, La Colmena, Project Hospitality, Immigrant Service, Beit Al Jamat. The young lady made a statement earlier. The only expert in this room is the experts in the room. And they're experts because they hear each and every day. This is the only borough I know that you can walk down the block, talk to the borough president, talk to the councilwoman, talk to anybody you want in office and have a genuine conversation and actually get stuff done. So it's not broke, guys. We just a work in progress. Please take that into consideration. I get caught up because this battle is real. And this is with all due respect to Brooklyn. Listen, you don't want to come out and pay that $20 to come across. Ask for perk. We'll have a picnic, I promise you, right? And it's no disrespect to them. But leave Staten Island alone. Let us do what we do. We winning. Understand that we winning. Please allow us to win. Thank you.
Is it Ahmed? Okay, thank you, Sam.
I'll be finishing. Thank you very much, committee members for being here this evening. And thank you to all the speakers who have spoken ahead of me, especially our elected officials. Just to re-echo what has been stated here this afternoon, I love the smell of Staten Island. I do. And you cannot imagine how Staten Island is glued together. And those of you outside of Staten Island will not imagine that. But my name is Ahmed Cargo, and I'm speaking on behalf of the African and Muslim community of Staten Island. As you all know, and have heard from most of the speakers this evening, it takes a lot to get to where we are today. Immigrant communities love to group and grow together. A reason why you heard the Sri Lankan community here, the Latin American communities, and the African communities here on the North Shore, because we love to group together. We love to work together as families and communities. As the post-pandemic recovery is going on, please help provide support for Staten Islanders so we can continue to grow instead of shattering the progress we've gained across language barriers, ethnicities, traditional and religious barriers in trying to become useful citizens. Please recognize these struggles and do not let us start all over again. Please save the progress we've cultivated collectively over the years. We are comfortable with those we already know, including our elected officials, who are able to identify most, if not all of us, by our names. As you heard, the gentleman just spoke here, and he actually mentioned most of us by names. And this is a community where, as I say, he just mentioned it, you can come to Borough Hall and get your stuff done. Did I just re-echo what the mayor is saying? Get stuff done. This is the border where stuff is done. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. and by saying that, just like my colleague just, or the speaker before me just stated, we can literally walk to our different destinations. If MTA doesn't provide me the bus on time, I cycle. And I can drive. This is the only board we have that privilege to do that. Yes, we're getting tickets as well. But guess what? We have the support that we need to continue building our communities. And we here as a very tight community, dysfunctional, but it's working. It is working. And sometimes it's nice to be dysfunctional because you see what you didn't perceive and what you take for granted, you actually cherish it. So by standing here today, again, on behalf of all the communities that are here, including the African community and the Muslim communities, let me say this again. We've come a very long way to see that and feel comfortable where we have our masjids, we have our synagogues and actually come sit down and talk, and have our own spaces where we bring our family issues and reconcile. Please keep Staten Island as you see it. I will be happy to come to you one more time and say, thank you for saving Staten Island, for saving us. Thank you, sir.
And thank you for your testimony. Angela, sister? Angela, sister? Oh, this is, okay. Take your time. Hello. See, there's a timer there, so. Nobody pays attention. Okay, go ahead. Just start. I went to Catholic school, so we have to pay attention to these things. So, I'm from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I've never been to a public hearing before. I worked all day, and I thought this was important enough to come to an address. I've been sitting here listening to everybody. I think I'm the only one from Brooklyn here. People from Staten, thank you. People from Staten Island are talking about their uniqueness. They are, in fact, unique. But in Bay Ridge, we share that uniqueness. I too know about the turkeys, the ones that are damaging the car. I know about the flood issues. I know about the transportation issues. We share many of the same issues except for the turkeys. We get stuck on the Bell Parkway together. We're connected geographically, socioeconomically. That includes Diker and Gravesend that are currently in the district. And it's a tremendous mistake to separate the district. There's no reason for it. And any reason to do it is gerrymandering, plain and simple. We are one. I paid the toll to come here today. Was happy to do it. I'm expecting a barbecue invitation, by the way. And Bay Ridge, Diker, Gravesend, Staten Island, we are all connected by that wonderful bridge. There's no reason to add Sunset Park and Park Slope. They're great places. My daughter went to school in Park Slope, but they don't have cars there. There's no place to park. Nobody in Park Slope has a car. I'm kidding. But they're completely different areas than Staten Island, Bay Ridge, Diker, Gravesend. It doesn't make any sense to separate them except for gerrymandering. Thank you for your time. And thank you for coming out. Next, you missed it. He said he'll have you at his house for the barbecue. Reverend Valerie Grant Martin. Reverend?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here and thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. I sit back here and I listen to everybody speaking, but I want to tell you something. If you want to get a little glimpse of the uniqueness, the culture and everything that I've heard about here, take a walk down Victory Boulevard and you'll see the Sri Lankan restaurant. You'll see the Jamaican restaurant. I thought my curry was good, but guess what? And I love my food, but when I tried the Sri Lankan curry, tell me about it. So that's some of the examples of the uniqueness. I am Reverend Valerie Reinhardt from West Brighton, District 49. And I've been there for 25 years. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the other, even the dysfunctional, right? And with project hospitality as well. I would have board of election as well. So I know all of the little itty bitty around the area, right? But let me tell you something here. We forget one major thing, the historical connotation with Staten Island. We talk about sandy ground. If anybody know about sandy ground in South here. And did you know about Tompkins Avenue in Staten Island? It was a historical Black community dating back to the American Revolutionary times. And while there was enslavement on Staten Island, the Staten Island community became a harbor of welcoming people, free back from Black persons, right? And a stronghold of Black culture and community. In Park Hill, more than 8,000 Liberians live, and majority of Park Hill is comprised of West African communities. We talk about Nigerian, Ghanaian, to name a few, and we've heard everyone from those communities. All right, but let me just say something here. The North Shore is reflected of a deeply historical background. Communities to have a voice in their future and in today for our children, especially the children who don't have a home of their own, children in foster care. And I know what I'm saying because I've been a foster parent for years. So we need to keep this district together. Amen. Preaching again. Let me go on preaching. We need to keep this district together. I can't leave the amen out because separating our historic Black neighbors from District 49 will severely, significantly impair the voice of our Black people, of our culture, of our whole Staten Island. In Jamaica, they have a saying, "We little but we tolerant." That means it's a small island, but we are strong. Look around you. Look here. We have Councilman Debbie Rose, Brother Kirk. We have Reverend Toya, and all these strong people here in this community. So earlier we had Miss Curtis from we know many years. She was at Curtis High School. This is a Black community, not just Black, a cultural community that's very strong. Let's keep it together. And I'm not even going to look on the notes anymore. Just keep it together as one. Forget about the redistricting. Let's just keep it together and try the cultural day. A cultural day, like thank you for Ms. Samuel for mentioning about Staten Island College with the cultural day. And you can taste all the essence of Staten Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend. And in closing, would our commissioners like to have several seconds for closing remarks?
Not, I will then say to our Staten Islander for him to have closing.
It's really great that so many folks showed up. This might be a record, so pretty sure. 5, yeah. We are small, but we are mighty. So keep engaged with the commission. You can continue to watch what we're doing online, social media. We'll be out here again. I'm out here all the time. I live here. So let us know what you're hearing. Talk to your neighbors. We'll be back once those maps are released. So keep engaged and let's keep fighting for what our district is.
And I'm sorry, we have one person who just jumped on our virtual and we're still within our timeline. So Leah McCabe. Liam. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll have to apologize. I'm on lunch right now, so I'm calling you from my car. I just wanted to testify about redistricting in Bay Ridge and Dyker Heights. I would just be saying, I think that the neighborhoods should be kept together. I think that we share the same police precincts, we share the same community boards, we have similar housing stock. I don't know what else has been said, but I just want to put that on the record. The other thing I wanted to say is, I'm a lifelong resident. I have deep roots into the community, and we've been dealing with sort of redistricting in that neighborhood for many, many years. I'm not sure if the committee is aware, but many, many years ago, the neighborhood was divided, and I'm sure this may have been said already, into maybe about 6 different assembly districts. And so it really waters down, the ability for us to have a real political voice in the community. One thing we do have is a intact city council seat and an ability to represent ourselves in that way. Just recently, as again, I'm sure you're aware, that was going back many years ago in terms of the way the assembly seats were cut to represent our area. You know that the New York State Supreme Court and other lawsuits were filed in other jurisdictions regarding the congressional seats and the Senate seats. And then there was a special master. And I think a lot of it had to do, and I think some of the major lawsuits stemmed from the representation, particularly in our area of New York. I know a lot of the leading people on that lawsuit were arguing that the neighborhoods were just cut up too much. And I think that may have played into the fact why the special master had to redraw. So again, I just implore the committee, do not divide this community, do not put it into 3 different neighborhoods. By the way, and just on a political note, I would say, and this is factual, I think it was the closest city council election. District 43 was the closest election. It was all over the papers. This is something that went into a recount. You had an election that was within a couple of hundred votes. You don't really see close elections in this city for the most part. There's very few districts that have that. If you tear up that district, you'd be tearing up, one of the most competitive, closest city council elections. That's not the right thing you should do. You should keep elections competitive, and you should embrace competition, especially the one that's the most competitive in the city. So that's about it from me.
So let me say thank you for taking the lunch hour and hopping in your car. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my thanks to the entire audience. Judge, did you want to say something?
Let me just say in closing, almost 250 years ago, a bunch of people rebelled against the redcoats and embarked this country on this amazing journey that we're still struggling to achieve. And that's representative democracy. And that's why we're doing this redistricting. We're going to try to be fair. Thank you all for coming. We've enjoyed your comments. I hope I get invited to everything. But I can't do that. I have ethical constraints. I want to say that the commissioners and I have a very tough road ahead. We're going to try to be fair and to follow the law, and we'll remember your comments. Thank you very much.
Get home safely.